So let's talk about this mega structure found under the Great Pyramids. Well, the Great Pyramids, of course, are one of the most interesting structures out there, and we know why everybody wants to rush to the structure because, of course, it gets a lot of attention around the world. It's probably why you never hear about structures from other areas. But let's talk about how they discovered this. Of course, they tried to use non invasive technologies, as they call it, into the ground of the pyramids, and this is what they claim to have found. The most important thing, I mean, they claim to have found some new chambers, but the most important thing about it is that they claim to have found some tubes with some staircases spiraling around the tubes, probably implying that they are workable structures and that these structures were probably used for something, and it could be anything ranging from some electricity machine or just pillars that the Egyptians used to use to go underground to do something, go fetch something. What do I think about this? Well, first of all, I haven't even read the original paper, so I don't think much of it. And then, secondly, most of the channels that I've watched that talk about it have already sort of thrown enough dirt at it that I'm pretty sure there's nothing that's really going on with this structure. It has less to do with the structure and more to do with the reputation of these people and their methods that they use elsewhere, and even with this technology that they claim to have developed. Obviously, they have an agenda, but their agenda doesn't matter to me because just because you have an agenda doesn't mean you're wrong. Just like how hippies in the 70s and 80s were able to prove quantum mechanics, and they wanted to do this to prove it for remote viewing reasons. Just because you're biased doesn't mean you're wrong. But the difference is the hippies used actual technology and proved that quantum tunneling was a thing. The difference here is these people have nothing. And here's a breakdown by a scientist.
That was published in a peer-reviewed journal, they said they'd use that to find structures inside the pyramids. The problem with this paper is that there is no discernible relation between the tomography images and the structures that they supposedly identified. I mean, look at this image. On the right is their measurement. On the left, you see overlaid the chamber we know is there. Alas, their signal is elsewhere. They seem to have randomly identified some structures in their tomography images and ignored others. Of course, I'm not the first to notice this. The 2022 paper was widely criticized and mostly ignored for this reason.
So, before we start talking about how the tubes going underground are pretty difficult to discover, especially if you take this image right here, which already proves that their technology doesn't work. Because, of course, as she says, the bottom one, it highlights a space where there's the red is where it's highlighted. Everything else that is blue is supposed to represent coldness or where there is nothing, and they just throw in a structure because most people don't know what they're looking at. If you look at this, it's almost like a heat map, and you can see that there is nothing in the area where there's supposed to be something, but they just throw in a structure in the area where there is nothing, where they found nothing. This means that not only are they biased, but they know that their machine doesn't work. Now, don't get me wrong, there probably is something under the Giza pyramids, but it probably has nothing to do with any of the discoveries that they have found. The reason why these people are probably doing what they're doing is publicity. And of course, they are ultra biased. And like I said, just because you're biased doesn't mean you're wrong. But in this case, they're biased and wrong. The only reason why I haven't read the original paper is because it's so wild and so crazy that it will take probably more than a couple days for me to figure out what on earth are they talking about. But looking at these already sensible, normal types of discoveries and types of notes they have, that's how we're going to know exactly what type of people we're dealing with here. Now, of course, you know, they're not exactly like Joe Rogan or some other person who on purpose says things that are kind of ridiculous, but they are, using their education for the worse. Now, this is not new. We have a bunch of scientists, historians, Robert Saper, for example, who now know that they can use their reputation, go on YouTube, say whatever they want, and people are going to eat it up because, hey, the other qualified people said if a person's qualified, you must believe everything they say. And if someone is not qualified, then don't believe them. And this means that people who are not qualified, who keep pointing things out like this, should be ignored, and these guys should be taken very seriously. Do I think they should be taken seriously? A little bit, yes, because there might be something underneath. They might have found something. Is it anything of what they say it is? Definitely not. Is it anything close to electricity and mega structures and the city and all of that? 100% not, because those things would have been discovered a long time ago, to be honest. Now, of course, I'm not saying that new technologies cannot be used to find cities and civilizations in the world. In fact, we know that using this type of technology, we found cities in both South Africa, we found it in the Americas, and we found some interesting structures in Europe. We found some interesting structures in Asia and even in Oceania, thanks to laser technology. The difference here is that this technology seems to be more scattered and less focused, and it doesn't really help. And of course, people want to now go dig because of this, which is, go do it. That's what I want. I'll be honest, I care more about them finding the DNA of the other pharaohs in Egypt than I care about this. But they can go dig if they want to. They can go dig around it. They don't have to dig through the pyramids. If there's chambers, you can come through the side. Start. You see where the camel is? Start there and just dig through the side. And if there's a giant chamber, it'll be obvious. Interestingly, most of the usual suspects have denied it and said, "Yeah, it's probably nonsense." And then the other usual suspects have been saying it's exciting. The I don't even care about the other ones, the ones who always say it's exciting, because they say anything is exciting. So who cares about that? So of course, if you come up with ideas like this, the first thing people are gonna do is dig you up and see what else have you done. Now, interestingly, this is probably the hilarious part. Like I said, just because you're a weirdo, hippies did use the quantum mechanics to discover that it is true that an actions at a distance can communicate with each other without being tethered and instantly. But this does not exactly mean that their stuff that they believe the remote viewing was absolutely real. But this does not mean that just because you believe in stupid things, that everything you do is stupid, especially when it comes to technology. So let's see the stupid thing that this guy pushes in other ways. So this is one of the authors and one of the people who worked on this project.
The other author is Corrado Malanga, who, according to his own website, was a university researcher at the Department of Chemistry and Industrial Chemistry of the University of Pisa. He also has a theory of global alien interference that explains alien abductions as follows. Quote, "The abductee in the bottom right part is programmed using an alien active memory, and in the meantime, they momentarily take out his sole component, the little red ball."
So it's not just the project that they're working on that's controversial. The people seem to be controversial, and they seem to be mainly in the public eye to push certain ideas, which are probably moneymakers, to be honest. And I don't actually know how they got permission to work on the Great Pyramids given this type of reputation, because so many other people who are like this would never go anywhere near them. And then, of course, you have so many other people who are like this in the scientific field as well, who have been dismissed years ago. So I don't know how these guys are doing this. Now, I will say that there are probably a lot of people who are going to continue to do this thing because, again, it's a very good generator of money, especially online, to say things that could not possibly be true. And then you have people who are going to always say that, yeah, it's a true for the first week or first 2 weeks, because of course it's easy to generate money from it. So, as the picture says, it's probably nonsense and it's probably not worth anything. Now, do I believe that these people should be given a chance even though they have a sketchy past and sketchy technology, and that we should check? Absolutely. Also, keep in mind that newer technology has discovered important things around the world. Here are some examples.
South African archaeologists have rediscovered an ancient lost city known as Kweneng using laser technology. The researchers, who are with the University of Witwatersrand, have been studying the site in the Suikerbosrand National Park for decades. But it wasn't until cutting-edge laser technology known as LiDAR, or light detection and ranging, became available that they were able to study the ruins in detail from above and discovered that what they thought was only a scattering of ancient stone huts was actually a veritable city.
Before I end this video, because of this quote unquote exciting project, which by the way, it's exciting how almost anything that's real about Egypt doesn't get as half the attention that these things get. I don't know what's so exciting about tubes under a pyramid compared to what we already have.
Y'all heard about this? No? I'm so sorry. A 2022 paper has just resurfaced, which claims that structures were found underneath the Great Pyramid using ground-penetrating radar. The theories for what this anomaly is have ranged everything from burial structures to power plants. And so, of course, every single conspiracy account under the sun has been flocking to this like a fly to shit. And y'all have been tagging me in these videos constantly asking for my opinion, so here it is. I'm going to say this once. This paper is, and I cannot stress this enough, not peer-reviewed. One of the authors of this paper is known for other works, like this one. Like this one.
I will say, interestingly, that I saw some people try and say that this structure is nonsense, even though they believe in other structures which are nonsense around the world. And I think it's because they see that these people are going to steal their thunder. But let's just leave it here and say one thing. This whole thing is kind of blown up for no reason. It's probably going to last forever. These things never go away. When people say that this structure somewhere, there's always going to be people who are saying there was that one project that happened. And you know what? If you're smart and you want to make quick money for saying stuff that's nonsensical, go to Egypt. I think Zahi Hawass said this, even though I'm not a big fan. He said this: go to Egypt and then go back to your air conditioned rooms in your country and make up whatever fantasy story you want to come up with, and you will be able to sell lots of books